Man, how does that stuff get reset? It sounds awful. Check the AI thing and the YouTube feed. There's an AI correction thing. I don't know how to do it. I know that's always the problem.
Thank you, Ron. Good morning. My name is Tim Miller. My pronouns are he and him. On behalf of this congregation, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of Native tribes. Whether you have joined us online or you are here in our sanctuary, we're glad to have you in this sacred time we choose to be together. We are an open community of learning, caring, and justice making. You are welcome here, every part of you, just the way you are. Our congregation is served by our minister, the Reverend Jamie Dingus. She's not here today, but she is available by contacting the Office for Pastoral Care and to answer questions about Unitarian Universalism. If you're a newcomer, please sign our guest book in the foyer to receive our weekly email newsletters. Please take a moment now to silence your electronic devices if you have not already. If you have a joy, sorrow, or important milestone that you would like shared during our Circle of Candles time and included in the pastoral prayer, please write it on one of the white cards in the pew in front of you. And I think I have one here. It looks like this. For the community news, check our email newsletter website and the white paper inside of your order of service. And I'll just mention a couple, one at the bottom there. We don't have a potluck today. Normally we do on the first Sunday of the month, but this month we're having our potluck on the second Sunday next month. So if you brought food, well, we'll still help you eat it probably. Also, there will be, there's not an announcement here, but you'll be hearing about an event this next Thursday from our speakers today. And so perk up your ears when you hear them start to talk about that. It will be here at the church Thursday evening. Excuse me. After the service, everyone is welcome to join us in Fellowship Hall over there for coffee and snacks. And the snacks may be, really good today. Okay, now I would like Vane Warrington to come up and ring the singing bowl and to help us enter into the service more deeply. Thank you, Vane. Finally, having gathered in a shared quest for truth, meaning, and purpose, let us light our chalice with these words by Anonymous. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. Now we'll have our music for centering, followed by our thread song, and we will have a thread song today. It's 123 in the gray hymnal.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Good morning.
Our call to worship are words from Paul H. LaRue. We gather in community to rest from our labors, to greet our neighbors, and to open our being to insight and intuition of that greater reality of which we are a part. May we find our time together inspiring and renewing. May we touch the holy in each other and be touched by the graciousness of life. May we find here a calm peacefulness that will carry us through the days ahead. Amen. Now I would like to invite up Adam Keller with a message about labor in the pulpit.
Good morning. I'm honored to be here today, and I want to thank you all for arranging this opportunity to speak to you on this Labor Sunday. My name is Adam Keller. I'm a father, a husband, a lifelong Southerner, and I'm a labor union member. I'm here representing the North Alabama Area Labor Council. We are a federation of 12 local unions and growing, representing thousands of workers across various industries. I'm proud to serve as one of our committee chairs and trustees. I represent IATSE 900, a local of the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. We do all the behind-the-scenes production work at the Von Braun Center in Orion, all the various concerts, musicals, and other events that you see coming through Huntsville. It's our union folks who actually set those up. Nationally, a lot of our IATSE members work with Hollywood or Broadway, as you can imagine. And if you watch the end credits of most movies, you'll see our union bug, which I'm wearing today. I've been working as a stagehand for the last few years, and I gotta say it's pretty cool that I got paid to listen to some of my all-time favorite musicians, even if it can be physically demanding work. But IATSE is my side gig. In my full-time job, I work as a community organizer for Alabama Arise, a nonprofit fighting for better state policies for poor and working folks. We truly appreciate this congregation's membership in the coalition. I joined the staff last August, and pretty quickly coworkers were bending my ear. They said they'd been thinking about starting a union for some time, and I was the most union guy they knew. So I said, great, we're the organizing committee now. And by November, we unionized with CWA, Communication Workers of America, Local 3908. On top of those roles, I co-host and co-produce the Valley Labor Report, Alabama's only union talk show. We're on 4 radio stations in 3 states, YouTube, Facebook, and podcast, and do our part to amplify working class voices. And I'm speaking here today as part of the AFL-CIO Labor in the Pulpit program, in which union members across the country address congregations about the relationship between faith and labor during the Labor Day weekend. Faith and labor share many values. We both affirm the dignity of human labor and workers, racial, social, and economic justice, equality of all, solidarity with the most vulnerable, justice in the workplace, and freedom of association, which for us means workers' freedom to join a union for mutual aid without fear of retaliation. Labor Day offers a time for us to reflect on the progress working people have made over time to create better lives for ourselves and our families, to ensure safer workplaces, and to build a stronger economy. Faith and labor have often been mutual partners in advocating for these advances, which include the 8-hour workday, workers' compensation, health and safety laws, unemployment compensation, restrictions on child labor, a minimum wage, the right to organize for collective bargaining, and a whole lot more. Workers have fought and even died for this progress, and we honor their struggle and sacrifice on this Labor Day holiday. At a time of such great inequality, when so few have so much while so many are struggling, workers everywhere are organizing to better their conditions and build a future we can believe in. The Unitarian Universalists have a long tradition of support for the rights of workers to organize unions. The Unitarian Universalist Association urges its member congregations and individual Unitarian Universalists in the U.S. to work specifically in favor of mechanisms such as reform of labor legislation and employment standards to provide greater protection for workers, including the right to organize and bargain collectively, protection from unsafe working conditions, and protection from unjust dismissal. Historically, your faith group has supported the right of working people to organize unions as a fundamental human right and as essential to ensure all people are treated with dignity and respect in the workplace. We invite the members of this congregation to learn more about the labor movement and to stay engaged with us, as the North Alabama Area Labor Council wants to develop an ongoing relationship with your congregation beyond just speaking to you today. And I'd encourage you to get involved with Alabama Arise. I want to be sure everyone is aware we're hosting a listening session this Thursday evening right here at 6 p.m. Really appreciate y'all hosting and hope to see some of y'all there if you'd like to talk about how we move Alabama forward. I've been active for a dozen years now because I believe if we are going to deal with the multiple layers of crisis that are bearing down upon us, we have to build a mass movement of everyday people. We have to unite the diverse working class majority, build a movement rooted in love, justice, and solidarity that can fight back against the forces of bigotry, exploitation, and oppression. We must respond to organized greed with organized people. We must respond to organized hate with organized love. Change typically comes from the bottom up. Throughout our history, every inch of progress was fought for from below. I truly believe a better Alabama is possible, but only if we come together and fight for it. Thank you again for this opportunity, and solidarity forever, y'all.
Thank you, Adam. That was wonderful. I learned something. I hope you did too. Before I invite you to stand to sing our first hymn, I want to tell you a couple things about it. We're just going to be on overdose this morning with information about labor, and this poem is, right up the message here. This poem refers back to the time of the labor and women's movements, to the demonstrations after the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, and the Lawrence, Massachusetts textile worker strikes, which came to be known as the Bread and Roses strikes. That's the phrase that comes back over and over in this hymn we're about to sing. But before we sing it, I just want to remind you that sometimes our hymns contain words that are discordant to the discriminating 21st century UU ear, like in the second verse with this troubling line, as we come marching, marching, we do battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Little problematic. Reverend Jamie wanted me to point this out, that, we're here about the entire message, and the entire message of this hymn is this: the worker must have bread, but she must have roses too. So also I want to say that the hymn tune itself is a little odd, especially when you get towards the end. The melody takes a turn you're not expecting, but please experience this with me. Rise in body or spirit, and let us sing hymn 109, As We Come Marching, Marching. As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, a thousand workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread a statement. As is our habit here, we're going to sing our doxology next, followed by our words of aspiration. You'll find them on the blue card. And if you would please stand and face the center, speak your words of aspiration to someone in the congregation. Let's sing the doxology. May love be the spirit of this church. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. You may be seated, and it's time for our story for all ages. Here comes Jess.
Good morning. There are an awful lot more of you than I thought there would be today on Labor Day. Today's book is Together by Mona, I'm going to butcher her last name, Damluji. One star shines as distant light, and when stars shine together, they make our galaxy. One bee wanders through my garden. And when bees work together, they are a colony. One bird calls into the wind. And when birds call together, they make a cacophony. One tree grows toward the sun. And when trees grow together, they make a canopy. One voice sings a tender song. And when voices sing together, they make a harmony. One instrument plays an unforgettable beat. And when instruments play together, they are a symphony. One mountain rises to a mounty peak. And when mountains rise together, they are a majesty. One wave is a surfer's dream. And when waves move together, they are an endless sea. One of us can make a home. And when we come together, we are a family. One of us can love with all our heart. And when we love together, we build community. It's a little long. One of us can speak up for justice. And when we speak up together, we create a world of possibility. The end. Okay, if we can sing our children out now.
All right. We are the Unitarian Universalist Church of Huntsville, a proudly inclusive spiritual community. Together we build a broader search for truth and meaning, a bolder form of compassion, a braver force for justice. If you would like to support us with a monetary contribution, we would be grateful. Your generosity helps us to keep the utilities on, maintain our building and grounds, run our various ministries, pay our staff a fair wage, and support organizations that share our UU values, as you hear today. You can donate online using the QR code on your order of service, or you can put cash or check donations in the offering baskets. Completed Circle of Candles cards that are in the pew in front of you should also be placed in the offering baskets. You are invited also to come forward during this time and quietly drop a stone into the bowl of water here next to the ramp in honor of or in memory of what you hold in your heart. It is through your generosity that we serve our mission here at UUCH. With gratitude, we now receive the offering.
Spirit of life, source of compassion and connection, join with us as we enter into this time of prayer and intention. Hold us as we hold in love those joys and sorrows shared here in our community. We offer prayers for the people of Gaza and Israel and Ukraine as they suffer greatly in war. We offer a prayer of gratitude for this lovely community, and I have to say personally, thank you so much for allowing me to be up here to speak to you today. Let us be moved to compassion for all that has been shared into this beloved community, and for all that will remain silent and unspoken in our hearts. Let us say, blessed be and amen. And now will you join us in singing our responsive music, number 109, Meditation on Breathing.
When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love.
My name is John Jeter, and my pronouns are he and him. Joe Hill. Joel Emanuel Haglund was born in Sweden in 1879. He immigrated to America when he was 12 and labored at various itinerant jobs as he worked his way to the southwestern states. He settled into his calling as a labor leader and union organizer with the industrial workers of the world. He changed his name to Joseph Hillstrom. The name Joe Hill settled on him in the early 1900s. In those years, if workers attempted to strike, the powers that be called in the National Guard and on occasion the U.S. Army. Sometimes striking workers were shot and killed. In Salt Lake City, Joe Hill was framed on a murder charge, convicted and executed by a firing squad in 1915. He was 36 years young. Joe Hill was also a poet and a songwriter, and in the 1930s, a Joe Hill tribute poem by Alfred Hayes was put to music by Earl Robinson. It became a rallying cry for union and labor causes throughout the world and has been recorded a lot by Paul Robeson, Woody Guthrie, and many other notable artists. Joan Baez used it as her opening at Woodstock in 1969. On this Labor Day weekend, it is fitting that we recall the works and memory of Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. In Salt Lake City, Joe says, I am standing by my bed. They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, I am not dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than guns to kill a man, says Joe, I did not die. Says Joe, I did not die. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, he says, what they can never kill went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where workers strike and organize, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I, but Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, says he. I never died, says he. I never died, says he.
Thank you so much, John. It really, really moves me that that song was presented. I didn't know it was going to be presented, but it really fits with the theme of my talk, which is history and of the UUs and the American worker. I enjoy learning about history. I just finished a book called The Canary Girls. I don't know if you've heard of that book, but it was about the women who worked in the munitions plants in the UK for World War I. And they worked so hard in the munitions plants and so long that their skin actually turned yellow from working with the TNT there. And I've also studied Civil War history, really learning a lot about Southern Unionists, believe it or not, and the 1st Alabama Cavalry, which I never knew some of my ancestors belonged to that august group of Union soldiers from the hill country of North Alabama. Their history is complicated. We have some things to be ashamed about, but also some things we can take pride in. Chat with me sometime if you'd be interested to learn more. And since I love history so much, I decided to take a deep dive today in the history of our Unitarian Universalists' forebears and their relation to the well-being of the American worker. Like my ancestors, there's a lot to take in. The stories are both joyful and sorrowful, filled with compassion and greed, wisdom and foolishness. Here we go. First, a cautionary tale of Unitarian George Pullman. Mr. Pullman was born in 1831 and was raised in upstate New York. He inherited a thriving business from his father and started out well enough. He was a brilliant engineer. His company was hired to remedy the problem of standing water in the streets of Chicago. His project lifted huge office buildings up to 6 feet higher than their previous height, eliminating the disease-ridden water from the streets. Following this success, he founded a railroad car company, building not just any car, a Pullman car, a luxury car with fine dining, comfortable seating, and berthing. He hired men who were formerly enslaved to be Pullman porters. These porters were more than just a porter. They did everything to include waiters, chefs, and valets all in one. These positions were considered at the time very prestigious for African Americans, since they were relatively, and that's a very key word here, relatively well paid, and their work included lots of desirable travel. As his business expanded, he purchased land near Chicago and formed a company town for the workers who built his railroad cars. The town was free from the influence of labor agitators, social vices, and provided country air and fine facilities. With time, however, Pullman forgot his Unitarian values and became an overlord by suppressing free speech, allowing only one church of no denomination in the town and no charitable organizations. Indeed, the people lived, learned, and died in the company way. When recession hit in 1894, Pullman cut his workforce, increased the workload, and reduced the pay of all the remaining workers, all the while keeping the company town rent the same. Workers, when faced with feeding their families with only pennies per week, decided to take to the picket line. Calling on his friend, President Cleveland, Pullman had the National Guard called up to break the strike. 34 strikers were killed. This slaughter prompted a huge outcry and thus launched a nationwide strike against the railroad. As a result of this tragedy, the Illinois Supreme Court forced the Pullman Company to divest from the town, and it was not long after this famous Pullman strike that Labor Day became a federal holiday in that very same year of 1894. On the brighter side, we do have some things to be proud of as Unitarian Universalists, and they have made a positive difference in the American worker's life. Here are just two examples. Some of you probably know, but maybe some of you don't. Pete Seeger was a Unitarian Universalist. He was a folk musician, also from New York State. He was born in 1913, and he and his band sang out against the McCarthy-era oppressions. McCarthyism was a political repression and persecution of left-wing individuals, including labor union activists. In the 60s, Seeger's music was used as protest music in support of many causes, including international disarmament, civil rights, workers' rights, and environmental causes. Pete Seeger popularized the song "We Shall Overcome" that was used over and over again in the civil rights movement. His group, the Almanacs, recorded an entire record album dedicated to the labor movement called Talking Union. Now let's take a look at another UU, Laura Town. Laura Matilda Town was born in Pennsylvania in 1825 and was a lifelong Unitarian. She, along with her fellow abolitionist Unitarians and Quakers, answered President Lincoln's call to educate former enslaved people. She left her home and started schooling and medical care for the recently freed people of Helena Island, South Carolina. In 1861, note that was well before the Civil War was over. Her work was pivotal in the founding of one of the first schools in the country for African American people called the Penn School, and she dedicated the rest of her life, over 40 years, to this effort. Rosalind Brown, who was the former director of history and culture at now the Penn Center, it's still active, Penn Center is. I've been there, it's quite an interesting stop. I invite you to go by there sometime. She said, Rosalind said, in 1862, before freedom came, Laura Town taught my ancestors how to free their minds long before the United States Congress freed their persons. Now that you've learned a little bit about history, what are possible next steps to improve the conditions of the American worker? Well, we can learn more, and some of us did recently. In the adult religious education group, we just finished reading Poverty by America by Matthew Desmond. And I think there's a display in the hospitality hall about what some of the people learned in this from this book. But you can also check the book out from our library. It's available. I think there's a copy back there available. It's quite a good read. I read some of it and participated in the second discussion, and it was quite good. Another way to help is to participate in efforts to raise the minimum wage and expand health care for workers. One organization working on this is Alabama Arise, as we heard from Adam. Thank you, Adam, for that good talk about it. Our social justice team is hosting Alabama Arise this Thursday night. I do plan to come. I hope you come too. I think it's at 6 p.m. Is that right, Adam? Thank you. In conclusion, let's listen to the words of the Reverend Sarah Skachko. There is no such thing as unskilled labor, and everyone who works behind a cash register or a flat top or a fryer deserves to be paid well for the work they do. The hours and days of a human life have value beyond measure. Our closing hymn is number 157, Step by Step, the Longest March.
We are going to sing this through a couple times since it doesn't have a lot of verses. And I think we'll start it. If you'll allow me to, I'll just sing it all the way through once for you. And then if you will join me on a second time through. And then we'll do it one more time through. And hopefully by then you'll have the words in your head enough that you can put your book down and maybe clap your hands or stomp your feet. Let's see how this goes. Step by step, the longest march can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none. If you'll join me. Step by step, the longest mile can be won. So many stones can form an arch, mangly none, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly
And for our chalice extinguishing today, we have, it was Friday's first light meditation from Reverend Galen Gungerich. And it's by Annie Dillard, who was born in 1945, apparently still alive. We live in all we seek. The hidden shows up in too plain sight. It lives captive on the face of the obvious, the people, events, and things of the day, which we as sophisticated children have long since become oblivious. What a hideout. Holiness lies spread and borne over the surface of time and stuff like color.
Our closing words are adapted from Reverend Krista Tavis, The Work We Share. It is our work, shared with each other in covenant, that creates and sustains this beloved community. The light of this faith lives on in us together, in our hearts, minds, bodies, and spirits. Amen, and blessed be.